One of the most important decisions you'll make as you transition out of residency or fellowship is related to your first employment contract. And for most doctors, the focus naturally goes to one place. It goes to compensation. What's the salary? What's the bonus structure? I'm Josh Friedlander with Guard. And while those are important, they're usually only one part of a much larger decision because your first contract doesn't just determine what you earn, it helps shape how your career develops over the next several years and perhaps longer. Compensation is often structured to change over time. You may start with a base salary or some type of guaranteed income for a set period, then transition into a productivity based model. And in many cases, these structures are often blended rather than purely one model or approach. So this is where bonus structure starts to matter more than it initially appears. In many cases, bonuses are tied to things like collections, RVUs, or production thresholds. On the surface, that can feel pretty straightforward: produce more, earn more. But in practice, the way these structures are designed can significantly influence both your income and your day-to-day experience working at your new employer. For example, some bonus structures are built on thresholds. You may need to reach a certain level of production before any additional compensation begins, which means early on, even if you're working more, it may not immediately translate into higher income. Other structures depend on factors that aren't entirely within your control. Collections can be influenced by billing efficiency, payer mix, or administrative processes. So what you produce won't always align with what is ultimately collected and paid. There's also a timing element here. In some cases, bonuses are paid with a lag, quarterly or perhaps even annually, which can create a real disconnect between the work being done and when compensation is actually received. And that timing has implications beyond when you just get paid. It can introduce variability to your cash flow as well. You may have periods where your base salary feels consistent, followed by a larger, less perhaps predictable bonus payment. So without a clear structure, that variability can make it more difficult to plan around spending, saving, and even other financial decisions that are important. There's also tax considerations tied to this. Bonuses are often withheld differently than base salary, and depending on how they're paid, they can create the perception that more is being lost to taxes than expected. In reality, it's often a function of how withholding is applied, not necessarily a different tax outcome, but it can still affect how income feels in the moment. And over time, these structures don't just influence income, they can influence behavior. They may shape how you allocate your time, how you think about patient volume, or even how your role evolves within the practice. So while the base salary is often the most visible number in an offer, the bonus structure is what often determines how income develops over time and how predictable or variable that income may be. Plus, worth mentioning briefly here, don't neglect taking a close look at other benefits that are going to be offered, such as health insurance, group insurance, such as life and long-term disability, long-term care insurance, and something that can also add up to significant dollars is also retirement plan benefits, matching contributions, pension benefits, cash balance plans. The list is lengthy, but understanding how these can translate into real dollars is absolutely crucial. So, understanding how income structure works, what drives it, and what factors influence it can provide a much clearer picture of what to expect beyond just your first year in your new role. There's also other elements within a contract that carry longer term implications that are worth mentioning. Non-compete provisions can really limit where you're able to practice if you decide to leave. Geographic restrictions may affect flexibility in a significant way. And partnership or even ownership pathways, if they do exist, may not always be fully understood at the beginning of your employment relationship. So, because of this, many doctors choose to have their contracts reviewed by an attorney who's familiar with physician or dental employment agreements, not necessarily to negotiate every term, but even just to better understand what's standard, what may be restrictive, or how the agreement could impact some of your future decision making. In some cases, these conversations also benefit from coordination, legal structure, compensation, and financial planning. Oftentimes they're going to intersect, and having clarity across these areas can help ensure decisions are aligned rather than just made in isolation. Your contract influences your income structure. Your income structure, it affects your taxes. Taxes impact your cash flow, and your cash flow is going to shape your financial flexibility and long-term trajectory. So this isn't just a legal decision here. It's one that connects directly to the rest of your financial life. Your first role, it also tends to set a direction for your long-term future. Not permanently, but in a way that can take time to adjust if your priorities change later. So the question becomes less about whether an offer is good in isolation and more about whether it aligns with where you think you want to go. That might include how and where you want to practice, the type of environment you prefer, academic, private practice, or how much flexibility you want to maintain early in your career. So this doesn't mean you need to have everything figured out before signing a contract, but having a clear understanding of what you're stepping into and how it may evolve over time can help make you be put in a better place to make informed decisions. This is one of several areas that tend to come up as you move from training into practice, and we've put together a series of videos that walks through these different decisions. Things like income, student loans, taxes, and how all of this begins to connect. We've also outlined these in a simple transition year planning checklist that brings all these elements together. If that would be helpful, you can find it in the description, a link to that below. And if you'd like to follow along as we continue releasing more content on this important topic during the transition year, you're welcome to subscribe here as well.